If we're like, so we're like,
محمد وآل محمد صلوات
good, turn it on.
اللهم صل على آل محمد
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم وهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم وهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث وقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب عليم قالوا طائركم معكم إن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال لهم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أعتقد من دونه آلهة يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنوا بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا مسلمين إن كان إلا صيحة واحدة وإذا هم قامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم مما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير عزيز عليم وقدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر والليل والنهار وكلهم في فلك يسبحون
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. جزاك الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم ولا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين. وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين. وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قالوا الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا من الله من لم يشاء الله وتعالى إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين. ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يبصرون ولا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون. ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون. قالوا يا ويلنا من بأسنا من مركزنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون. فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون. إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم. وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم لا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم. ولقد ضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون. هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون. اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون. ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون. ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون. ومن نعمره ننقص في الخلق أفلا يعقلون. وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين. أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون. واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون. ولا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يؤمنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقنا من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وصل الفاتحة مقوم حميد العدالة إن كل ما هم من الناس الفاتحة محمد وآل محمد صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
दुख भरी एक दास्तान आज खोलेगी जुबान. It basically means a painful story that time will tell today. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
दुख भरी एक दास्तान आज खोलेगी जुबान. दुख भरी एक दास्तान. दुख भरी एक दास्तान आज खोलेगी जुबान. दुख भरी एक दास्तान. थी मोहम्मद की वो बेटी, थी मोहम्मद की वो बेटी, जिसकी टूटी पसलियां. दुख भरी एक दास्तान आज खोलेगी जुबान. दुख भरी एक दास्तान जिसका इस्तकबाल करते थे रसूल मुस्तफा. आज उसी दरबार में ज़हरा को झुटलाया गया. थी जो मिसदाक़-ए नमा की, थी जो मिसदाक़-ए नमा की, उसका झुटलाया बयान. दुख भरी एक दास्तान आज खोलेगी जुबान. दुख भरी एक दास्तान जलते दरवाजे के नीचे ज़ौजाए शेरे खुदा. आ गया बैते शरफ में ज़ालिमों का काफ़िला. मोहसिन मज़लूम पर तो मोहसिन मजलूम पर तो रो पड़ा फिर आसमां। दुख भरी एक दास्तां आज खोलेगी जुबान। दुख भरी एक दास्तां। एक सहाबी पूछता था वाकया क्या हो गया। लश्करे असहाब किस पर हमला आवर हो गया। क्यों अली के घर के आगे, क्यों अली के घर के आगे ढेर की हैं लकड़ियां। दुख भरी एक दास्तां आज खोलेगी जुबान। दुख भरी एक दास्तां। ले चले मजलूम अली को खींच कर दरबार में। ये सजा है दर को बैत की मेरी इनकार में। घर जलाया जुल्म ढाया, घर जलाया जुल्म ढाया और गले में रस्सियां। दुख भरी एक दास्तां आज खोलेगी जुबान। दुख भरी एक दास्तां। मैं जिया कैसे मुकम्मल कर सकूंगा दास्तां। जिसमें बिखरा जुल्म इतना कम पड़े मेरा बयां। जिसके हम में रो रहे हैं, जिसके हम में रो रहे हैं आज देखो सुजान। दुख भरी एक दास्तां आज खोलेगी जुबान। दुख भरी एक दास्तां। थी मोहम्मद की वो बेटी, थी मोहम्मद की वो बेटी जिसकी टूटी पसलियां। दुख भरी एक दास्तां आज खोलेगी जुबान। दुख भरी एक दास्तां।
اللهم صل على محمد.
بر حبیب خدا خاتم انبیا به آواز بلند صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
नारे हैदरी
या अली.
नारे हैदरी
या अली.
फातिहा।
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونتوكل عليه ونصلي ونسلم على حبيبه ونبيه وخيرته في خلقه حافظ سره ومبلغ رسالته أمين وحيه وخاتم رسوله وبشير رحمته ونذير نعمته سيدنا ونبينا بالقاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وآله الطيبين الطاهرين المنتجبين الهداة المهديين المعصومين سيما بقية الله في العالمين السلام عليكم المسلمين وخدمة المستضيفين وجماعة. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for his countless blessings upon us. In Surah Ahzab, ayat number 56, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing something and he's actually advising us to do the same action. Now, majority of the time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just commands us to do something, pray namaz, do roza, go for hajj, don't do this, don't do that. But it's very rare that you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doing an action himself, and then he turns around and says that because I am doing it, you should do it. And what he says is that inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna 'alan nabi ya ayyuhallazina amanu sallu 'alayhi wa sallimu taslima.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Now what you just recited was Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. So you sent your peace and salutations on our holy prophet, and you also sent it on his progeny. Now the action that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that indeed Allah and his angels are sending their blessings on the prophet. And Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, O those who believe, send your blessings and salutations on the prophet as is respectful or appropriate for him. And that's when we do the salawat. Right? So when you are recognizing, you're recognizing the prophet, but you're also recognizing his project. Now let me take you back 1400 years ago. Imagine a time there where there is somebody there where he has two of his sons that have died. And instead of somebody coming in and giving you their condolences, they come in and not even recognize that you actually have had a death of a child or two. And then to add insult to injury, they turn around and call you abtar. Now, what does abtar mean? In Arabic, abtar means that somebody who is basically doesn't have a male child that can carry the family's name forward. In essence, it's an animal whose tail is cut off. So now you are being insulted. You have just become the prophet of Islam where you're preaching against all the odds. You're buried two children, and then people turn around and call you abtar on top of it. Not only recognizing that somebody died and giving you condolences, but they're actually insulting you by calling you. In this lowest point of time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turns around and says, Inna atayna kal-kawthar. Fasalli li rabbika wanhar, inna shaniyaka huwal abtar. Indeed, we have given you kawthar. Kawthar means abundance. Now, a lot of mufassir in Islam translate that it is a spring in heaven, in Jannah, that is pretty much abundant, right? Very much prosperous. But then when you look at the surah, Allah is saying that, we have given you kawthar, so pray and sacrifice, because it is your enemies who are going to be abtar. So when you look at the surah, it's talking in context of the progeny and the name of the family of the prophet carrying forward. And the single one person, right, responsible for carrying that family name forward is our Holy Lady of Light, Fatima Zahra Sayyidatin Nisa. So we are gathered here today to talk about that special lady who actually is the connection between Nabuwa and Imam. Now, before we talk about Our Lady, Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, right, we need to first start understanding what context are we talking about in terms of Bibi Fatima Zahra. Now, when you look at it in that light, there are several questions that come to light. The first question is, how is Bibi Fatima perceived in the Islamic world, which is the non-Shia world? How do they look at it? Now, we also then have to ask the question, why is she important to us in our Shia philosophy, right? We have to answer that question, what makes her so special in terms of our faith? Then we also have to ask the question, if she's special to our faith, what are the reasons why we are calling her special? So was there her nur or her light present when Adam was created? Or was it predating her, or was she born afterwards? Number two is, was her birth heavenly or not? In her conception in this world when she came, was it heavenly or not heavenly? Was she a masuma, right, an infallible? Now, the question is, why are we asking these questions, right? Because if we as Shia do not understand the concept of her life, we do not understand the concept of her infallibility, if we don't understand the concept of her birth, then as Shia, we actually miss the whole bus. So you can look at the life and lessons of Lady Fatima Zahra, you will see that there's a lot of lessons to learn from it. But the fundamental question for us as Shias is to understand, is she divine or not? Is she heavenly or not, right? If we cannot answer that question as Shias, then everything falls apart for us. And then the question is, how does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honor Bibi Fatima Zahra alayhi salam in the Quran? Because if you don't understand that question, then everything is kind of baseless, right? And then the last question is like, how is she going to be honored on the day of judgment? Right? Now, in our Indian culture, right, we used to have, and still do, right, we have this concept of Thursday Fatiha for Imam Ali and Bibi Fatima Zahra, right? This is something we recite every Thursday, right? We do Fatiha, we recite the story about Bibi Fatima. There's actually two stories we recite. Now, the question is like, if you're reciting that story, does it bring any element of heavenly interaction when it comes to angels and so on and so forth? So you have to start asking these questions like, how does Bibi Fatima become relevant to us in terms of her divinity? So the first question is, how is she viewed by the Islamic world? Now, Islamic world typically just looks at her as a historical figure that was born around our Holy Prophet. She was one of the ladies. Now, of course, they do talk about her being named in the four heavenly women, right? Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh, Maryam, alayhi salam, the mother of Isa, alayhi salam, Bibi Khadija, alayhi salam, and then Bibi Fatima. So they recognize her as somebody who is heavenly from that perspective, as Lady of Heaven, right? They also say that, yeah, she's spiritual in nature, but they say she's not a masuma. Masuma means an infallible. Now, on the other hand, right, we as Shia always talk about Lady Fatima as somebody who's a masum, right? Infallible. Now, just like our Holy Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you cannot look at his prophethood without his divine element or his divine essence. Same goes with Bibi Fatima when it comes to us as part of our Shia learning and understanding. We need to have a very good understanding how is she divine. So if we do not and cannot answer that question, then we actually are saying the same thing as the other people are saying. Now, there were a lot of women in the time of Prophet who were respected, right? And they were highly spiritual, but they were not called, in essence, somebody who's of divinity or born of divinity. Now, when it comes to Bibi Fatima Zahra, three things come to light, right? Number one is the fact that was she born before or after Adam? Like, was her light created before Adam or after Adam? Right? Number two question is, how is she a Masum? Right? So that's central to our faith. And then the third question is, how is that divine connection coming into play? So we will start talking about the couple things, like one of the hadiths out there is that, she is Sayyidatul Nisa'il Alamin. She is the leader of the women of the Alamin. And then there is an important hadith that I want to highlight to you. This is something you need to remember this, because I will come back to it later, where our Holy Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, Fatima is a part of me. Fatima is a part of me. Whoever makes her angry also makes me angry. And whosoever makes her happy also pleases me. Now, when you look at it, Zahra means radiant one. Fatima Zahra means Fatima the radiant one, the illuminated one, the lighted one, right? That's part of her name. Now, there is two traditions out there that I can highlight to you when it comes to, was her nur or her light created before Adam or after Adam. Now, when Adam was created, right, he noticed on the, if you guys can come a little bit forward, so Muhammad. The first tradition is that when Adam alayhi salam was created, he noticed on the door of Jannah there were 5 names that were written on the door of Jannah. And if you can remember, right, Adam alayhi salam was actually sent down from heaven to the earth. And when he was sent down to the earth, he was doing istighfar. He was saying sorry to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When he was doing that, he had 2 choices. Right? Number one was he could just ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh Allah, forgive me. Right? But then he decided to do is that when he saw the names, he remembered the names. So he said to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, on behalf of your Holy Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on behalf of Ali, on behalf of Fatima, on behalf of Hassan, and on behalf of Hussein, I ask you for forgiveness. Now, somebody asked him, why did you use those names? So he said that when I saw those names written on the doors of heaven, I felt that those names are beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So because those names are beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I use those names to ask forgiveness from Allah. So you can see automatically that if those names existed, that means what? That nur of Bibi Fatima Zahra alayhi salam was already pre-existent before. Now the second narration is the fact that when Adam and Eve or Hawa were in heaven, or the secondary heaven, however you want to call it, right? And they talked about themselves and they said, we have such good residence here, all the good things are out here, and I don't think anybody else has better than us. So Allah sent Jibreel alayhi salam to Adam alayhi salam, and he said, let me take you to heaven. And he took him to heaven, and he saw that there was this radiant house filled with light that was illuminating the whole of heaven. So Adam alayhi salam turned to Jibreel alayhi salam and asked him, whose house is this? So he told him, that is the house of our Lady Fatima Zahra alayhi salam that is illuminating the whole heaven. So this shows you that her nur or her light was actually there even before Adam was created. Now the second question is, how was she born? Was her birth actually heavenly or not? And what are the incidents around? Now, Angel Jibreel, before Bibi Fatima was born, he actually came to our Prophet and said, you need to stay away from Bibi Khadija alayhi salam for 40 days. So he actually told Bibi Khadija that I've been instructed by Angel Jibreel that I need to stay away from you for 40 days. So hence I will go stay in the house of my uncle Abu Bakr. Now after some time, Angel Jibreel with Angel Mikael appeared and they brought him some food from heaven. So they told the Prophet, you need to eat this food. So he asked, what is in it? He says, we don't know. We just been instructed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring this food to you. So you need to eat it. And once you eat it, then you can go to Bibi Khadija. So when Rasulullah opened that food, he saw that it had grapes and it had dates in it. And he asked him to say, you need to eat this. Once our Prophet was done eating the food, Angel Jibreel washed the hands of our Prophet and then they told him to go to Bibi Khadija. So as you can see that once he went to Bibi Khadija, that's when she was conceived. So Bibi Fatima was conceived after our Prophet ate heavenly food brought by the angels. So that's when she was born. And then Bibi Khadija says that when Bibi Fatima alayhi salam was born, she automatically went into the prostration or the sujood shape. So right away, Bibi Fatima went into the sujood. Now at that time, what she found was that because Rasulullah was already teaching about Islam, none of the midwives actually wanted to come and help Bibi Khadija. So for that reason, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent 4 heavenly ladies to help the midwives of Bibi Khadija. Number 1 was Kulthum, the sister of Nabi Musa. Then he sent Asiya, the wife of Pharaoh. He sent Maryam. And then he sent Hawa, or Adam's wife, Hawa, Bibi Hawa. So she had 4 heavenly ladies who came to help Bibi Khadija for the birth of Bibi Fatima. The other thing was that at that time, if you looked at it, a lot of the women, when the child was born, they used to actually have a nurse who used to feed the baby. In the case of Bibi Fatima alayhi salam, you saw that Bibi Khadija actually personally nursed her herself. So now you find that you have this lady of heaven whose nur was there from before. Her birth was due to heavenly food. And not only that, she had heavenly midwives who came and helped during her birth, and she was personally nursed by her own mother. Salawat Muhammad. Now let's go to the Holy Quran, right? How does the Holy Quran and Allah respect our Lady Fatima Zahra? So the first story is the story of Nadr. What happened is when Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain were young, they got sick. So when Rasulullah came to visit them, he told Imam Ali and Bibi Fatima Zahra that they are sick. So what you should do is you should do another that you need to fast for 3 days once they get better. So once they got better, now the time came to do the fast. So Imam Ali went and got some flour, which Bibi Fatima Zahra divided into 3 parts, and then at the end of the first day, she made 5 pieces of bread. Why 5 pieces of bread? Because it was herself, it was Imam Ali, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussain, and then their lady Fidda, right? Her help who was also there. So they all fasted for the whole day. They made 5 pieces of bread. Now when it came down to the time of the fast, opening, right as they were about to open the fast, there was a knock on the door. And Imam Ali went and opened the door, and what he found was that there was a poor person who was hungry, saying, I need food, can you give me some food? So Imam Ali gave that person his piece of bread. So Bibi Fatima, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussain, and Fidda all gave away their 5 pieces of bread to that poor person. And they just drank water and opened their fast. Next day was the second day of the fast, and they made 5 pieces of bread again. Again, same thing. When it was time to open the fast, there was a knock on the door, and the knock on the door was there. And guess what? There was an orphan there who showed up, say, I am an orphan, I'm hungry, can you give me some food? So again, same thing, all 5 of them gave away their 5 pieces of bread. And they again opened their fast with water, and that was it. And then thirdly, now imagine this, right? How many fasts do we keep? Right? We keep 29, 30 fasts, but what do? We eat in the morning and then we eat in the evening. Now think of this way, you've gone 2 days without eating anything and just water. And now it's the 3rd day of the fast, and the 3rd day of the fast is, if you haven't eaten for 3 days, it's really hard. 3rd day again, they keep the fast, 5 pieces of bread again. Again, as it's time to open the fast, there's a knock on the door. And then the knock on the door is there. Guess what? This time there is a person who was captive or somebody was released from prison and he had come in. So they gave away their 5 pieces of bread. At which time, Bibi Fatima Zahra saw the faces of Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain. They were really little, right? And they were really hungry and their faces were really young. So she told Imam alayhi salam, why don't you do this? Take Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain to Rasulullah, their grandfather. Maybe if they see him, they will actually get pleased and maybe it will bring a little bit joy to their face. So they took Imam Ali took Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain alayhi salam to Rasulullah's house. So when Rasulullah saw the face of Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain, he asked Imam Ali, what's going on? That we had kept another and 3 days in a row. Now we are fasting and we have given away our bread. So Rasulullah said, if that's the state of my grandsons, what is the state of my daughter? So he said, let's go to visit my daughter also. And when he went and visited at that time, this ayah from Surah Insan came in, and this is what it says, and it says, and they give away food out of love for him to the poor, to the orphan, and to the captive. And they say, we feed you only for God's sake, we intend not any recompense nor thanks. Verily, right, Allah will guard them on the day of evil and cause them to meet with freshness and pleasure. And guess what happened? As soon as they heard that ayah, their whole soul filled up with nur, where all the hunger went away. Salawat Muhammad. Now, again, I keep emphasizing the fact that as Shia, we need to start understanding the divine nature of Bibi Fatima Zahra, because she is the connection between Risala and Imam. She's the mother of 11 Imams, and she's the wife of the first Imam. And, when we say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, the main connection is actually Bibi Fatima Zahra. There is no child of Rasulullah or grandchild of Rasulullah that survived except through Bibi Fatima Zahra. That is a given fact, whether it's you go to Shia references or you go to Sunni references. Anywhere you go, you will find that none of the daughters or there was no male children that survived, but none of the daughters or their granddaughters actually survived except through Bibi Fatima Zahra. The second story is the ayah of Mubahil. Now, it's very simple story, right? There were some Christians who came from Najran, right? And they had a debate with our Prophet, right? And for 3 days, they went back and forth with their discussions, and they wouldn't basically agree with Rasulullah. So at which time there was an ayah came to them. It's in Surah Al-Imran, ayah number 61. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and say unto him who disputed with thee after knowledge has come to thee. And say what? Come, let us summon our sons and your sons, our women and your women, ourselves and yourselves, and then let us invoke and lay the curse of Allah on the liars. So Allah basically said, they gave him an open challenge, right? What the challenge was called Mubahila. Basically, 2 parties come out in the open and they invoke the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the liar. Whosoever is the liar, they actually get the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, at that time, the Christians had brought a priest with them. And this priest said that if tomorrow, Muhammad, right, alayhi salam, if he brings any of his companions or friends, then he's a liar. But if he brings anyone from his family, then we know it's the truth because nobody would risk their personal family for the sake of this curse. So you need to see what comes, who he brings on the day of Mubarak. So on the morning of Mubahala, right, the Christians were already there in the field and they were waiting, saying, who does the Holy Prophet bring? And you saw these 5 come in. You saw Rasulullah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He had Imam Hassan, who was holding his hand. He had Imam Hussein in his arms. He had Imam Ali, and he had Bibi Fatima. I mean, their faces were so radiant on that day that Christian priest looked at them and he told them that, look, I see the radiance or the noor or the light on the faces of these 5. If they ask that mountain to move, the mountain will move right now. So if you get into this competition of Mubahala, not only will you be cursed forever, but your entire progeny will be cursed forever. Salawat Muhammad. Now, interestingly enough, if somebody has the Quran, they can go look in the ayah. The ayah says, bring your women and we will bring our women. Interestingly enough, there was only one woman. It wasn't women, it was just one woman who Rasulullah brought. So that just tells you the importance of Bibi Fatima. The third ayah, which is we always quote this in everywhere we go, right? Innama yuridullahu liyuzhiba ankum rijsa ahlal bayti wa yutahhirakum tatheera. Allah intends to keep every kind of uncleanliness away from you or people of the household and to purify you a thorough purification. Now we quote this all the time, but does anybody know what objections people bring to this ayah when they bring it? Do you guys know what the objections they bring? First of all, this ayah actually completely validates the infallibility of Bibi Fatima. It actually confirms it. But how do people invalidate it? Because the first part of the ayah starts to talk about the wives of Rasulullah. And then the next part goes to the Ahlul Bayt. And what happens is that right now, a lot of people say, well, it's just continuing to talk about the wives. So you have to actually understand what exactly is going on in the ayah so you can actually answer the question. Number one point was the fact that when Allah talks about the wives of Rasulullah, right, He uses words like Baitikunna Tabarrijna. Those are female pronouns in Arabic. So you specifically talk about women at that point of time. But when it comes to ayah of Tathir, Allah uses nouns as, Ankum Rijsa wa yutahhirakum tatheera. So He switches from female pronouns to male pronouns, male multiple pronoun. Now somebody will say, well, male multiple pronoun in Arabic actually includes the women. Correct? Because it actually includes the women. Now, interestingly enough, we actually always recite Hadith-e-Qissa. Right? That was the actual story in Hadith-e-Qissa where this ayah was revealed. At that time, the wife of Rasulullah, Salma, was actually present. So when all 5 of them was under Hadith-e-Qissa, Salma asked Rasulullah, can I enter Hadith? Can I enter the Qissa? At which time Rasulullah said that, you are good, but this Qissa is only reserved for these 5. So it just goes to show you that if the wives were included in the ayah of Tathir, Rasulullah would have allowed Salma to actually enter the Qissa, but he actually did not allow her to enter the Qissa. Number 2 is the fact that, if you look at all the words in there, right, in the first part of the ayah, it's talking about common homes. And I know if somebody knows Arabic, you will know, right? Baitikunna means like, houses. But when it comes to ayat Tathir, Allah says, Ahlal Bayt, Al-Bayt, the house. First, He's talking about houses of wives, but then when it comes down to the ayah of Tathir, He's talking about the house. So there's only one house which can be the house, right? Whereas All the other houses would be houses. And then the interesting part is that there is not one wife of Rasulullah who actually claimed that that ayah was particularly about them. The only person who claimed that this ayah was about them was actually Bibi Fatima Zahra alayhi salam. She said, this particular ayah is for me and my children, or my family. Salawat al-Muhammad. Now, there are a lot of times where, there is some. So now we talked about her life before creation. We talked about her conception being in a heavenly manner. We talked about the Quranic ayahs which proved her infallibility. And, I will talk about one particular incident, right, which is, the fact that Jibreel actually used to visit her, right? And when Rasulullah especially passed away, Allah sent Jibreel alayhi salam to actually console her and tell her about things that were happened in the past and also about the future. And that's called Mushaf Fatima, right? That's actually known out as the Mushaf Fatima. That book is actually with the Imams. But that was the fact that that book was given to Bibi Fatima, who actually Imam Ali wrote himself. Now, let's talk about the Day of Judgment. So on the Day of Judgment, you will find that the narrations say that when Bibi Fatima Zahra alayhi salam will come, there will be 70,000 angels that will accompany her on the Pulesra. And there will be an announcement made that all creation, right from Adam all the way till the Day of Judgment, lower your gazes for the daughter of your holy prophet, Fatima Zahra alayhi salam is coming. Everybody will be lowering their gaze at that time. Salawat I'll come back to this part where I said, Rasulullah said, Fatima is part of me. Whoever makes her angry also makes me angry. What is our responsibility and role in this? Now that we understand the divine part of Bibi Fatima Zahra, right? You are sitting in what is called the Dar-e-Zehra. Dar-e-Zehra is the house of Bibi Fatima Zahra alayhi salam. Now, there is a beautiful ayah in the Quran in Surah Munafiqun, right? Where Allah says, وَأَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاكُم مِّن قَبْلِ أَن يَأْتِيَ أَحَدَكُمُ الْمَوْتُ فَيَقُولَ رَبِّ لَوْلَا أَخَّرْتَنِي إِلَىٰ أَجَلٍ قَرِيبٍ فَأَصَدَّقَ وَأَكُن مِّنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. So I'll draw the picture for you, right? What does Allah say? Allah says that on the Day of Judgment, right? Everybody is in front of Him, and there are people who are standing, waiting to be judged. And they are seeing the rewards that are being given to the people who have done sadaqah, right? Who have done the sadaqah, who have done the good deeds, and they are seeing the reward. So they are telling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give me some more time so I myself can go and actually do some sadaqah, right? So that I can become indeed one of the good ones, or the ones who are being rewarded, or the righteous ones, or the forward ones. And Allah will say that no one will be given even 1 second of extra time on that day. Now, why do I bring this ayah up, right? How can we do sadaqah? We can do sadaqah 2 ways. One is with our money, right? The other is with our time. Right, and I will give you a hadith from our Prophet, right? Our Prophet says that, take advantage of 5 things before 5. And what are the 5 things before 5? He says, take advantage of your youth before your old age. Now, why am I giving you this hadith? I'm giving you ideas around how you can contribute back to Dar-e-Zehra. This is the house of Bibi Fatima Zahra. So it's not only about money, right? Of course, the center needs your money, but what else can you help contribute? Because what does Rasulullah said? If you make Fatima happy, I am happy. If you make Fatima angry, I am angry. So then he continues, your youth before your old age. Next he says your health before you become sick. Your health before you become sick. Your wealth before you become poor. Use your wealth wisely before you become poor. Your free time before you get preoccupied. Time. Right? One of the biggest things we can do for this center, as far as I'm concerned, I've been looking at this center for quite a while now, right? We use this center maybe 1 hour a week. It's supposed to be a community center for all of us. And this is the house of Bibi Fatima. I'll talk to you about, right, the house of grief for Bibi Fatima. It's a pretty sad story when you look at the house of grief where she had to go. This is the house of Bibi Fatima where she visits us, right? Where we have the opportunity to remember her name. And then the last thing Rasulullah says is that, take advantage of your life before that shows up. Take advantage of your life before that shows up. So let's figure out a way to actually utilize this center a lot more, right? Whether it's programs for ladies, get together every week, programs for men away from the wives or ladies, program for the children, right? Let's use this center versus 1 hour a week on Jummah prayers. We need to use this Dar-e-Zehra. This is the house of Bibi Zehra. Salawat Muhammad. And Allah says in Surah Ra'd, ayah number 11, He says that, indeed Allah will not change the state of a nation or a people until they make the change inside themselves first. So we all need to make the resolve in our heart first and make the change inside ourselves first that we will utilize this center. Now, I talked about Dar-e-Zehra, I talked about the house of grief. Fatima Dar-e-Zehra alayhi salam used to visit the tomb of her father, and she used to take a handful of dirt from his grave. And she used to smell it and she used to start crying. And then she would return to her home and she would start crying day and night. The elderly men of Medina came to Imam Ali alayhi salam, and what did they say? They said, Ya Abul Hasan, Fatima cries all day and night. And when she cries all day and night, we cannot sleep comfortably. Hence we demand you to ask her to either cry during the day or during the night. Imam Ali alayhi salam proceeded to Fatima Dar-e-Zehra alayhi salam, who was crying, and when she saw him approaching, she stopped crying. Imam Ali alayhi salam said, O daughter of Allah's messenger, the elderly men of Medina have asked me to ask you to either cry during the day or the night. Fatima Dar-e-Zehra alayhi salam replied, she said, Ya Abul Hasan, how short will be my stay among them? Why are they disturbing me? I'm going to be here only a little while and soon I will depart from them. Therefore, by Allah, I will join my father and Allah's messenger. When Imam Ali alayhi salam saw the insistence on her, he built her a house. She built her a house behind Jannatul Baqi, the graveyard, which later on became known as the house of grief. We are in Dar-e-Zehra, and Imam Ali built her a house of sorrow. This is the Muslim Ummah calling or telling you need to leave your house so you can cry somewhere else. Thereafter, every sunrise, Fatima Dar-e-Zehra alayhi salam will take Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein to that house and cry until sunset, when Imam Ali alayhi salam would come and he would take them home. Bibi Fatima Dar-e-Zehra was missing her father so much, right? And she used to remember the times that he was there. So she longed for the sound of the azan, the call for prayer, which was performed by Bilal. But Bilal had taken an oath to never perform it again after the Prophet's death. Nevertheless, in respect to Fatima alayhi salam's request, he decided to do so. And as soon as Bilal said, Allahu Akbar, Bibi Fatima alayhi salam remembered the time of her father and started weeping. And when Bilal reached to Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Fatima took a deep breath and she fell unconscious. And when Fatima Zahra alayhi salam fell, the people requested Bilal to stop the azan because they believed that Fatima Zahra alayhi salam had died. I have some words or lines that I picked up from a book called Fatima the Gracious. I felt it would be appropriate for this occasion to read them out to you. The author, he says, it was a short life, as short as the lives of fragrant roses. He says, a life that Fatima Zahra alayhi salam endured, and now it is coming to an end even before it was given a chance to blossom. The successive calamities and severe hardships which fell Lady Fatima Zahra alayhi salam while she was still young, the heart which longs for the great messenger who gave her the good news of her departure soon after him. Oh, how she was forsaken, but she was the Prophet's daughter. She was his favorite child. She whom the Prophet repeatedly expressed the importance of observing her rights. He always said, keep her rights, keep her rights. But Fatima Zahra alayhi salam appeared pale and faint. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with you, Ya Ummul Hasan. You shall depart towards the generous Lord and a great Father, and then you shall complain to him about what you have encountered. O Allah, please grant us the shifa of Bibi Fatima Zahra alayhi salam and her progeny on the day of judgment. O Allah, give us the unwavering resolve to use the inspiration from the martyrs of Karbala to stand up against injustice wherever it may be found. O Allah, we ask you for all that is good in this world and in the hereafter on behalf of our Holy Prophet and his progeny. O Allah, we seek refuge with you from all evil in this world and in the hereafter. O Allah, we ask you for the good that your servant and prophet has asked you for. We seek refuge with you from evil from which your servant and prophet sought refuge from. O Allah, we ask you for paradise and for that which brings one closer to it. And we seek refuge from you, from hell, and from that which brings one closer to it. Please remember your marhumin and recite the Surah Al-Mubarakat Al-Fatiha. But before that, Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala al-nabi ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya